everyone, this is Rita Cui. I'm an early childhood curriculum professional. In this training video, I will go over some basic planning skills that are essential for our daily work. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge that the land on which we live, learn, and work is the traditional territory of many indigenous people. We recognize and honor the deep history, knowledge, and connections that indigenous communities have to this land, and we are grateful for the opportunities to share, learn, and grow together here. As educators, we have a responsibility to honor these truths and reflect on how we can create inclusive, respectful learning spaces for all children and families. So the ECE is designed to nurture a child's cognitive, emotional, social, and physical development in a safe and structured environment. Early learning focuses on the educational development of young children. It promotes play-based learning, language development, problem solving, creativity, and the growth of social skills, laying a strong foundation for lifelong learning. Childcare, on the other hand, provides a safe and supervised environment for children while parents or guardians work, study, or attend to other responsibilities. Together, early learning and childcare support both the developmental needs of children and the well-being of families. As early childhood educators, we will work as a team with children, families, colleagues, and other professionals. Each of them will come from different culture and family backgrounds. It is essential that we keep an open mind at all times, embracing diverse needs, perspectives, and ideas with respect and curiosity. Okay, so what is emergent planning? Emergent planning is a flexible and responsive way of designing curriculum that grow out of what children are already interested in, their questions, their play, and their everyday conversations. Instead of planning every detail ahead of time, we allow the plan to unfold naturally as we observe and respond to what the children are doing and thinking. As part of this process, we also want to include multimodal literacy and ensure that activities stay open-ended and child-led. But that brings up an important question. What does the free play really mean? And if open-ended play is so valuable, why do we still include some closed-ended activities? These are important topics, and we will explore them in more detail in the future videos. This approach sees children as capable and curious learners who take an active role in shaping their own learning journey, which we believe children are capable, strong-minded learners. So why do we use emergent planning? Because it helps us as educators create learning experiences that are meaningful, responsive, and developmentally appropriate for the children we work with. For example, if children are building with blocks and start calling their structures castle, we can build on this idea. We might read books about castle, look at simple blueprints, talk about how buildings are made, or add materials like cardboard and fabric for more creative building. This kind of planning helps children explore big ideas through play, while also building skills in language, problem solving, and imaginations. It is a great example of how emergent planning works in child-led, play-based environment. When we talk about inquiry-based learning, we often follow a flexible cycle that helps guide our thinking and planning. It usually starts with observation, watching and listening carefully to what the children are doing, saying, and showing interest in. Then we move into reflections, thinking about what those observations tell us. What are the children curious about? What ideas are emerging? From there, we begin planning. This includes setting up provocations and invitations, thoughtful materials or experiences that encourage children to explore further. Next, we implement the activities, letting the children engage, explore, and lead the direction of their play and thinking. During this time, we continue to observe and document, taking notes, photos, or collecting work samples that capture their learning. After that, we move into evaluation and assessment, looking at what the children have learned, how they engaged, and what might come next. Finally, we revise and continue the cycle, using what we have learned to shape the next steps in their learning journey. And then it is all start again. That's the beauty of emergent inquiry-based learning. It is ongoing, responsive, and always centered around the children. Let's start with observation. Observation means really noticing how children interact with each other, with IDOT, and with their environment. Ask yourself, who was involved? When did it happen? And for how long? Timing helps us understand behavior better. How did it start and end? What happened? Was it between peers, with an educator, or with material? And most importantly, why is this moment meaningful? What did you learn about the child? These small moments give us big insight, and they are the first step in planning something meaningful. From these observations, we look for patterns or common interests that help us identify a big idea. Something meaningful we can explore further with the group. To begin expanding on that idea, we can start with a simple word cloud, collecting words related to the big idea. Then, we categorize those words to form a more organized set of activity ideas. These categories help us sort ideas into the COPP, which is represent for a constellation of play possibilities, a tool designed to support ongoing sustainable curriculum development. COPP isn't a one-time plan. It is a living tool that can hold multiple ideas and be used over time, depending on the children's evolving interests and needs. Once we have the big idea and our constellation of play possibilities, we think about how children might explore it in different ways, like art, building, storytelling, sensory play, and more. Finally, we bring those ideas into our weekly planning, using them to guide the materials we prepare, the questions we pose, and the experiences we offer. It is a flexible and responsive process that keeps our planning closely connected to the children's interests, while still giving us direction and a purpose in our teaching. Next, let's talk about provocation. A provocation is something we set up to spark curiosity and invite children to explore. It could be a table with shells and magnifying glasses, a photo of a spider web, or a simple question like, what do you think will happen if we mix those colors together? The goal is to get children thinking, asking questions, and trying things out on their own. Instead of telling them what to do, we give them space to lead the learning. Because provocations are open-ended, there's no one right answer, just lots of possibilities. This helps build creativity, problem solving, and language skills, all while keeping learning fun and meaningful. So here are some examples of provocative open-ended questions. We try to use what, who, how, why, and when questions to keep the answers open-ended and engage children's thinking. Implementing activities means putting our weekly planning into action through hands-on experiences that allow children to explore, experiment, and test their ideas and theories. As educators, we're not just setting things up, we're engaging with purpose. We listen closely, observe carefully, and offer scaffolding to gently support and extend children's thinking. This might look like asking an open-ended question, introducing a new material, or guiding them just enough to help them go a little bit further on their own. This is also the time when we gather meaningful observations, those small moments that show us how children are growing, what they have interested in, and where their learning might go next. All of this keeps the planning cycle moving forward and helps us make the thoughtful decisions about what to offer next. After we carry out the activity, our job isn't finished. We keep watching closely and recording what we see. This could involve writing brief observations, snapping photos, or gathering examples of the children's creation. This moment helps us see what children are learning, understand their thinking process, and notice how they're interacting with different materials and ideas. This ongoing observation also supports deeper forms of documentation, like learning stories and pedagogical documentation. These not only help us track and make sense of children's learning over time, but also strengthens our professional identity and help us build relationships with children, families, and colleagues from different perspectives. We will talk more about this in a future video. And next, we move into evaluation and assessment. This doesn't mean the formal testing. It's simply reflecting on questions like, what did the children learn? What ideas stood out? How did they interact? And most importantly, where can we go from here? Then comes the final step, revision and continuation. We take what we have learned and use it to shape the next steps. That might mean deepening the current exploration, introducing new materials, or following a new interest sparked by the children. And then it all starts again. That's the beauty of emergent inquiry-based learning. It is not a fixed plan, but a living cycle that grows with the children and keeps their voice and interest at the center. Alright, that brings us to the end of this training video on using basic tools and getting started with simple planning. I hope you truly enjoy the time you spend with the children and their families. These everyday moments are incredibly meaningful. As educators, you play a powerful role in supporting each child's learning and development. Thank you very much for your participation and wishing you a playful day. Thank you.